I'm sitting here, staring at the computer screen, trying to wrap my head around what just happened. My name's Jake, and I'm just a regular guy, 36, married to the same woman, Lisa, for nearly a decade. We have a comfortable life together. We own a modest house in a decent neighborhood, and on paper, everything looks good. But recently, I felt that something was off. At first, it was subtle. I noticed Lisa being a bit more distant, her mind seeming to be elsewhere during our conversations. She'd get these texts late at night, and I could see her smiling at the screen, but when I'd ask her about it, she'd just brush it off, saying it was nothing, just a friend. I wanted to trust her, but that nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach never really went away. Then came the aftershave. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I swear I could smell it in our car one afternoon. It was sweet and musky, and definitely not mine. Not her dad's either. I asked her about it casually, trying to keep my tone light, but she just laughed it off and said she must have gotten it from a coworker. I didn't buy it. I mean, how often do you just pick up a random scent that doesn't belong to you? I started snooping, which I know is not the best move. I didn't want to invade her privacy, but my instincts screamed at me. I found an empty perfume bottle in her drawer, something floral and expensive that she never wore before. I also saw her Facebook messages light up with a name I didn't recognize, Mark. It was always Mark this and Mark that. My heart raced every time I saw that name. One night, I was at home alone, the house quiet, and I found myself scrolling through our shared computer. I wasn't looking for trouble, but I came across her emails. Holy hell, I wish I hadn't. There was a whole thread between Lisa and Mark, filled with flirtatious banter that made my stomach turn. They talked about meeting up, how excited they were to have fun together, and how they couldn't wait to see each other again. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. The rage boiled inside me as I read their messages. I couldn't believe my wife was cheating on me. Everything I thought we had, every moment we shared, suddenly felt like a lie. I confronted her the next day, my heart pounding in my chest. Lisa, we need to talk, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked up from her phone, that casual smile quickly fading from her face. What's up? I took a deep breath, my hands shaking. I saw your emails with Mark. Her reaction was swift. She turned pale, her eyes wide. What, Jake? That's not what you think. I couldn't believe the denial in her voice. I pressed her, demanding to know what was going on, and she started spouting excuses. Apparently, Mark was just a friend she met at work, and they were only joking around. She tried to play it off like it was no big deal, but I wasn't having it. Joking around? You're planning to meet him, Lisa. This isn't just a joke. Her eyes darted around as she scrambled for something to say. It was infuriating to see her attempt to minimize everything. I could feel the betrayal deep in my chest, suffocating me. The emotional weight was almost unbearable, and I felt a mix of anger and sorrow crashing over me like waves. This wasn't just a simple mistake. This was her choosing him over me, over us. I felt like I was sinking, and the realization hit me hard. I had to figure out how to move forward. Would I confront this head on, or would I tread lightly and see what else unfolded? I was lost, but one thing was clear. I wasn't the man I used to be. I knew I needed a plan. I needed to think this through. But how? How could I get back what was lost? How could I make her understand the depth of her betrayal? I had to get revenge, not just for me, but to show her the consequences of her actions. What would I do next? I had no idea, but I was determined to find a way. The confrontation with Lisa left me reeling. After she spewed her excuses, I could see the frantic look in her eyes. It was almost like she realized the gravity of what she'd done. For a moment, I thought she might come clean, but instead, she doubled down on her lies. You're being ridiculous, Jake. You know how I get when I'm stressed at work. Mark is just a friend. But deep down, I could see the gears turning in her head. She was calculating how to wriggle out of this. I could tell she was trying to play the victim card, expecting me to feel guilty for confronting her. But I wasn't having it. The anger coursed through my veins, and I could feel my heart pounding a steady rhythm of resentment. After that explosive evening, I needed space. I decided to sleep in the guest room just to give us both time to breathe. I was desperate for clarity and a plan, but all I felt was a swirling storm of emotions: anger, betrayal, confusion. I started thinking of what I could do to make her understand the consequences of her choices. It wasn't just about getting back at her. I wanted her to feel the impact of her betrayal. The next few days were a blur. Lisa tried to act as if everything was normal, but I could see through her facade. She'd make small talk, asking about my day, but there was an undercurrent of tension that hung in the air like a thick fog. I felt like I was living in a nightmare, one I couldn't wake up from. I started devising a plan. I needed to gather more evidence, something to solidify my case against her. I knew she had been texting Mark frequently, and I decided to play along. I'd act nonchalant, let her think I was over it, all while I kept a close eye on her movements. I started checking her phone when she wasn't around. I found her passwords, and it was too easy. I had never been the type to invade her privacy, but desperate times called for desperate measures. I found more messages, and they were as steamy and flirtatious as I had imagined. She talked about how much she missed him, how exciting it felt to be with someone new. Each word cut like a knife. One evening, while I was scrolling through the threads, I saw a message about their next meetup. They planned to meet that Friday, and a cold chill ran down my spine. The timing was perfect for me. I decided that I would follow her that evening. I needed to see for myself what she was doing, catch her in the act. That Friday, I was a bundle of nerves. I had taken the day off work, telling my boss I wasn't feeling well. I wanted to be sure I was ready when the time came. When Lisa got ready that night, she slipped into a tight black dress that hugged her body in all the right places. My anger boiled again. How dare she dress up for someone else? I watched her as she applied her makeup, glancing at herself in the mirror with a satisfied smile. She was oblivious to the fact that her husband was heartbroken and watching her every move. I couldn't help but feel a mix of betrayal and sadness as I saw her excitement. It was like she was preparing for a date, and the thought of that made my stomach churn. When she finally left, I followed her in my car, keeping my distance but making sure I stayed close enough to track her. She drove to a trendy restaurant downtown, the kind of place we used to love before she became distant. My heart raced as I pulled into a nearby parking spot and watched her walk in. I stayed in my car trying to calm my racing mind. I could only imagine what was going on inside. I pulled out my phone and took a few deep breaths. I had to remind myself why I was doing this. I wanted proof, something irrefutable that would lay bare her betrayal. As I sat there, I noticed couples walking in and out, people laughing and enjoying their evenings. And there was Lisa, sitting at a small table, laughing with Mark. I could see the two of them through the window, leaning in close, whispering to each other. My blood boiled as I watched them share a bottle of wine, their body language intimate, their chemistry undeniable. I felt a heaviness in my chest, and suddenly I was overwhelmed with emotions. I wanted to burst through the door and confront them right there, but I knew I had to be smart. I needed to gather what I could and formulate my next moves. I waited for what felt like an eternity, but it was worth it. I watched as they shared a meal, their laughter echoing in my ears like a haunting melody. I hadn't just lost my wife to another man. I was watching her choose him over me, and it cut deeper than I could have ever imagined. Finally, after what felt like hours, I saw them leave. Lisa was smiling, and I felt a mix of anger and sadness. She looked like she was floating on air, and it made me sick. I started my car and followed them again, my mind racing with thoughts of revenge and justice. As they drove to a nearby hotel, I felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I was about to enter a dark phase of my life, one where I would reclaim my power and make her understand what she had lost. I parked my car a few blocks down and walked towards the hotel, determined to confront her but equally prepared to execute my plan. What was I going to say? How was I going to make her see the depths of her betrayal? I had no idea, but I was ready to find out. As I approached the hotel, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. This was it. I was about to confront Lisa and Mark. In the most intimate of settings, the very place where she was betraying everything we had built together. The lobby was relatively quiet, and I could see them at the front desk checking in. Lisa's laughter rang out, and it sent chills down my spine. I never thought I would find myself in such a situation, yet here I was, ready to confront my wife about her infidelity. I took a moment to collect my thoughts. I wanted to make my presence known, but I needed to keep my composure. I didn't want to make a scene, at least not yet. I waited in the shadows, watching as they completed the check-in process. When they received their key card, my blood boiled. I could see the way she looked at him, all dreamy-eyed and infatuated. It felt like someone had taken a knife and twisted it in my gut. Once they headed towards the elevator, I followed at a distance. I could hear their voices, excited whispers about the night ahead. Mark leaned in close, and I caught a glimpse of Lisa's smile as she looked up at him, her eyes sparkling with something I hadn't seen in a long time. A mix of rage and sadness washed over me. How could she throw away everything we had for this? As the elevator doors closed, I took a deep breath and stepped up to the desk. "Excuse me," I said to the receptionist, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can you tell me which room they just checked into?" The receptionist looked at me, slightly apprehensive. "I'm sorry, but I can't give out that information." I forced a smile, my heart racing. "I understand, but it's really important. It's about a friend of mine." She frowned but held her ground. "I'm really sorry, it's hotel policy." I felt the frustration building but decided to switch tactics. "Okay, I'll wait for them to come back down then. Can I just sit in the lobby?" She nodded, looking a little relieved that I wasn't causing a scene. I took a seat, my mind racing with thoughts. What was I going to do when they came back? I could confront them, but I wanted to make sure I had everything in my arsenal. I needed to gather more evidence to catch them in the act if possible. After about 15 minutes, I saw the elevator doors open again. My stomach dropped as I saw them stepping out, arm in arm, laughter spilling out as they walked towards the exit. I slipped out of my seat and followed them outside, feeling like a predator stalking its prey. They walked to the side of the building, and that's when they stopped. Mark pulled Lisa in close, and they shared a kiss that felt like a dagger to my heart. I froze for a moment, the sight paralyzing me. I couldn't believe my wife was kissing another man so passionately, as if I never existed. The betrayal washed over me like a wave, leaving me gasping for air. But I knew I had to act. I stepped out from behind a pillar, my heart pounding in my chest. "Lisa," I called out, my voice breaking through the night air. They froze, and I could see the shock on her face as she turned to face me. "Jake." Lisa's voice was a mix of surprise and fear, and it felt like a punch to my gut. "Nice to see you enjoying your night out," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "What's this? A little fun with Mark?" Mark looked confused, glancing between the two of us. "Who the hell are you?" I took a step closer, fueled by a mix of anger and adrenaline. "I'm her husband, you know, the one she's been lying to, the one whose heart you're breaking." Lisa stepped in front of Mark, trying to play the role of peacemaker, but I wasn't having it. "Don't protect him, Lisa. You're the one who needs to be confronted here. How could you do this to me?" She opened her mouth to speak, but all that came out was a stammer. "Jake, I can explain, it's not what it looks like." "Oh, really?" I replied, incredulous. "Because it looks like you're cheating on me with this guy. You've been lying to me for months." Mark took a step back, realizing the gravity of the situation. "I didn't know she was married, man," he said, trying to distance himself from the chaos. "Of course you didn't. Why would you care?" I spat back, feeling the anger rise in my throat. "You're just some guy she met at work. Right, just a friend." Lisa's face turned pale, and I could see her trying to think of a way out. "Jake, please, just let's talk about this. It's complicated." "Complicated?" I laughed, though it was devoid of humor. "No, it's pretty simple. You've been having an affair, and you're standing here trying to make excuses. You're the one who made this complicated." I could feel the tears stinging my eyes, and I fought them back. I wasn't going to let her see me break, not now. Lisa looked desperate, her mask of confidence slipping away. "I'm sorry, Jake. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Didn't mean for it to go this far," I shouted, my voice echoing in the night. "You didn't mean to sleep with another man. You didn't mean to laugh and flirt behind my back. What exactly did you think would happen?" I could see the realization hit her. She knew she had crossed a line, and now it was out in the open. The shame washed over her like a tidal wave, but it was too late for apologies. "Jake, please," she pleaded, her voice shaking. "I still love you. I didn't mean to hurt you." But all I could feel was betrayal. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. "If you really loved me, you wouldn't be here right now," I said quietly, my emotions swirling like a tempest. I turned to Mark, my voice firm. "You should leave, man." He nodded, sensing the tension. "I didn't know, I swear, I'll go." As he walked away, I turned back to Lisa. The fight was gone from her posture, and I could see the tears glistening in her eyes. "I don't even know what to say to you right now," I said, my voice trembling. She stepped closer, reaching for me. "I'm so sorry, Jake. I messed up. Please, let's figure this out." But in that moment, I realized that I had to make a decision. I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, and I had to choose the path I'd take. Would I attempt to salvage this marriage, or was it time to walk away? I took a deep breath, the weight of the world on my shoulders. "I need time to think," I finally said, turning away from her. I had to process what had just happened, but I knew one thing. I couldn't go back to life as it was. Not after tonight. I needed to take control of my life again, and that started with making some difficult decisions. Walking away from Lisa felt surreal. Each step away from her felt like it was pulling me further into a void. I'd never imagined that I'd find myself in this situation, grappling with my wife's infidelity and my own jumbled emotions. The night air was crisp, but I felt cold inside, the betrayal gnawing at me. I got in my car and sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel tightly, trying to calm my racing heart. I had just confronted my wife about her affair, witnessed the intimacy she shared with another man, and now I was left to sift through the wreckage. The anger still simmered beneath the surface, but it was slowly giving way to a profound sadness. As I drove home, the radio played softly in the background, but I couldn't focus on the music. I replayed the evening in my mind, Lisa's laughter, the way her eyes sparkled when she was with Mark, the excuses that fell flat. I felt like a fool for believing in her, for trusting her when she said she loved me. When I finally got home, the silence was deafening. I walked into the living room and stared at the photos on the wall, pictures of us on vacations, laughing, loving life together. They felt like a lie, a facade hiding the truth that had now been laid bare. I felt a pang of loss for what we used to have, for the woman I thought I knew. I turned on my laptop, wanting to distract myself from the bleak reality, maybe even reach out to a friend for support. But I just couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I spent hours scrolling through conversations online, seeking catharsis in the stories of others who had faced similar heartache. I stumbled across threads about cheating, betrayal, and heartbreak, and I found myself lost in the words of strangers, their experiences echoing my own. After a while, I felt the urge to craft my own narrative, a way to process the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. I opened a blank document and started typing. I poured my heart out, detailing everything I had discovered, the signs I had ignored, the feelings of betrayal that clawed at me. I found solace in the fact that I wasn't alone, that others had walked this path and emerged on the other side. The next morning, I woke up feeling heavy. I knew I had to confront Lisa again. I couldn't let my emotions fester. I needed clarity. I called her and asked her to meet at a cafe nearby, a neutral ground where we could talk without the tensions of home hanging over us. When I arrived, I found a corner table that offered some privacy. I took a deep breath, still grappling with a mixture of anger and sadness. I had slept poorly, and the lack of rest only amplified my emotions. As I waited, I rehearsed what I wanted to say. I didn't want to yell or accuse. I wanted to get to the heart of the matter. When Lisa walked in, her expression was a mixture of hope and dread. She spotted me and approached cautiously, her eyes searching mine for a sign of forgiveness. "Hey," she said softly, taking a seat across from me. "Hey," I replied, my tone flat. The initial small talk felt forced, and I could sense the tension brewing beneath the surface. "I've thought about everything," she started, her voice trembling slightly. "I know I messed up, and I'm so sorry, Jake. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try." I looked at her, searching for sincerity in her eyes. "You think it's that easy? Just say you're sorry and expect me to forgive you." "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," she shot back, a hint of desperation creeping into her voice. "But I want to understand why I did this. I want to fix us." "Fix us?" I shook my head, disbelief washing over me. "You don't just break a marriage and expect it to be okay because you say you're sorry. There's a difference between wanting to fix something and actually being willing to put in the work. You can't just expect me to ignore what you did." I know it was wrong. I was lost, okay. I was feeling neglected, and I made a stupid mistake. "Neglected?" I echoed, my anger rising. "You chose to cheat. You could have come to me, talked to me about how you were feeling. Instead, you decided to betray me. You didn't consider the impact of your actions, Lisa." She looked down, biting her lip as tears filled her eyes. "I know," she whispered. "I messed up. I didn't think it through. I didn't realize how much I cared about you until it was too late." My heart ached, but I knew I couldn't let her see how vulnerable I felt. "You had the chance to fix this. You had choices, Lisa. You chose him." "I know," she said, looking at me with those desperate eyes, "and I regret it more than I can express. I thought I was looking for something I was missing, but I see now that it was all a lie. I still want you, Jake. I want us." "Do you really?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. "Or is it that you're scared of being alone now that the thrill is gone?" She opened her mouth to defend herself, but words fell short. Instead, she reached out, placing her hand on the table between us. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I promise I'll go to counseling, that we can work through this together. Just give me a chance." I stared at her hand, feeling the weight of her plea. I wanted to believe her, but trust was a fragile thing. "You've shattered my trust, Lisa. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. Please, just give me a chance to prove I can change," she begged, her voice breaking. I felt torn. Part of me wanted to walk away, to sever the ties that had been so painfully frayed, but another part of me still cared for her, the woman I had loved for so long. "Let's take it one step at a time," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I need to see if you're serious about this, but know this, it's going to take time and there are no guarantees." She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'll do whatever it takes, Jake, I promise." As we sat there, the tension in the air felt palpable. I had opened the door just a crack, but the journey ahead loomed large and uncertain. Would we find our way back to each other? Or would this be the beginning of a long, painful goodbye? I didn't know, but I was willing to explore the path ahead, no matter how treacherous it might be. I had to be strong, not just for myself, but for the us that still lingered in the shadows. The road to recovery would be long, but I had to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. Lisa and I attempted to navigate the ruins of our relationship, stepping carefully over the debris her infidelity had created. I agreed to give her a chance, but I found it difficult to shake the anger and betrayal that lingered in my mind. Each moment we spent together was a tightrope walk. One misstep could send us tumbling back into chaos. We started attending couples therapy, which was both enlightening and painful. In our sessions, we unraveled the layers of our relationship, digging deep to understand where things had gone wrong. Lisa spoke about feeling neglected, about how the routines of everyday life had overshadowed our connection. It was hard for me to hear, given that I felt like I had been pouring myself into our marriage. But I also realized that I had been living on autopilot too, taking her for granted, perhaps, and prioritizing work over our relationship. The therapist guided us through difficult conversations, helping us express our feelings without the heat of anger clouding our words. I was surprised to find that Lisa was genuinely remorseful. She opened up about her insecurities and the moments when she felt invisible. I learned that her affair, while unforgivable, had stemmed from her feelings of inadequacy rather than a lack of love for me. It was painful to grasp, but it helped me understand her actions better. Despite the therapy sessions, I still found myself haunted by her betrayal. I replayed events in my mind, the image of her laughing with Mark, the intimacy they shared. It all cut deep. I struggled to reconcile the woman I thought I knew with the one who had betrayed me. I wanted to believe that we could rebuild, but trust was elusive, fading like smoke in the air. I started to implement small changes in my daily routine, hoping that they would help rebuild our connection. I made more of an effort to be present, turning off my phone during dinner, surprising her with flowers, planning weekend getaways. It was exhausting at times, but I pushed through, determined to fight for what we once had. Lisa seemed appreciative, her gratitude evident in the way she smiled and kissed me, but the shadow of her betrayal still loomed. One evening, after a particularly intense therapy session, we returned home, and I could see that Lisa was feeling hopeful. She suggested we open a bottle of wine and watch a movie together, something we used to do often. I hesitated for a moment, still grappling with some feelings of resentment, but I agreed. As we settled onto the couch, I tried to focus on the moment, allowing myself to relax. During the movie, I noticed Lisa glancing at me, her eyes searching for connection. I could feel her longing for the intimacy we had lost, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of warmth in my heart. But then the moment was shattered when my phone buzzed, a text notification lighting up the screen. It was a message from a close friend, Charlie, asking if I wanted to grab a drink. I looked up at Lisa, whose expression shifted as she noticed the interruption. I hesitated again, unsure of whether to respond. It wasn't that I didn't want to hang out with Charlie, but I didn't want to hurt Lisa by prioritizing my friends over our time together. "Go ahead," she said, trying to sound casual, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. "You can hang out with Charlie, I'll be fine." Wondering if this was a test, I replied, "Are you sure?" "Yeah, I'm sure. I think we both need some space sometimes," she said, forcing a smile. I felt a pang of guilt but chose to respect her wishes. "Okay, I'll just be a bit." As I left the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was making a mistake. The drive to the bar felt longer than usual, my mind racing with thoughts of Lisa. Was I truly giving her the space she needed, or was I walking away from it? Opportunity to heal together. At the bar, I met Charlie and tried to engage in small talk, but my mind was elsewhere. I told him only a fraction of what had happened, focusing on how Lisa and I were trying to work things out. He listened attentively, offering supportive words, but I could tell that my heart wasn't in it. I was still wrestling with feelings of betrayal, and every attempt at casual conversation felt hollow. As the night wore on, I received another text from Lisa. "I miss you already." I glanced at Charlie, who was mid-story, but my attention was drawn back to my phone. I felt a mix of warmth and guilt, knowing that she was likely sitting alone at home waiting for me. It was a reminder of how fragile our reconnecting was, and I felt the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. "Hey, I think I'm going to head home," I said to Charlie, cutting him off mid-sentence. He raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Now, we just got here. Are you sure?" "Yeah, I really need to," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. On the drive back, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I wanted to make this work, to fight for us, but I also knew it would take time. When I walked through the door, I found Lisa curled up on the couch, her eyes lighting up when she saw me. "Hey, I was starting to worry," she said, her voice soft. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to keep you waiting," I replied, genuinely, taking a seat beside her. "I just missed you," she confessed, leaning against me. We sat together in comfortable silence, the warmth of her body next to mine bringing back feelings I had almost forgotten. I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crack, but I knew I had to be cautious. "Can we talk about what happened tonight?" I asked after a moment. "Of course," she replied, sitting up to look at me. I took a deep breath, my heart racing. "I feel like we're making progress, but I'm still wrestling with everything that happened. Sometimes I wonder if you truly understand what you've put me through." "I do," she said earnestly, her eyes glistening. "I'm sorry, Jake, I really am. I want to prove that I can earn your trust back." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. There was a glimmer of hope in her sincerity, but I still felt cautious. "It's going to take time, Lisa. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight." "I know," she said, her gaze unwavering. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes." As we sat there, I felt a flicker of the connection we had lost, but I also reminded myself that the path ahead would be rocky, filled with moments of doubt and uncertainty. I had to stay strong. For now, I would hold on to this spark of hope, however fragile it may be, and see where it led us. The journey was far from over, but as I wrapped my arms around Lisa, I realized that for all the pain, there was still a chance for healing. And that was a step worth taking. The weeks turned into months as Lisa and I trudged along the rocky path of rebuilding our marriage. We continued attending therapy, where we unraveled our emotions and worked on effective communication. I learned to express my feelings without allowing anger to cloud my words, while Lisa made a conscious effort to be more open and vulnerable. It was a slow process, but with each session, I felt a little more weight lift off my shoulders. However, the lingering shadows of betrayal still crept in from time to time. There were nights when Lisa's phone buzzed, and I'd feel that familiar twinge of jealousy or doubt. I had to remind myself that healing isn't linear. I'd take a deep breath and remind myself of how far we'd come. Lisa, for her part, was making an effort to be transparent. She would often show me her phone, giving me access to her messages, and I appreciated the steps she was taking to rebuild my trust. One evening, we decided to revisit our favorite restaurant, a place that once held sweet memories but now felt like a test of our commitment to each other. As we sat across from each other, the ambience was warm and inviting. Lisa looked beautiful, and for a moment I felt a flicker of the love that had initially brought us together. The conversation flowed, and it felt almost normal, like a first date all over again. "I've been thinking a lot about us," I said, carefully choosing my words, "about where we go from here." Lisa looked at me, her eyes wide, filled with hope. "Me too, Jake. I want to make this work. I'm ready to fight for us." "I want that too," I replied, feeling a smile creep onto my face. "But I also think we need to be realistic. It's still going to take time, and we need to be patient with each other." She nodded, her expression serious. "I know. I just want you to know that I'm committed to fixing this, no matter how long it takes." Those words hung in the air, a promise we both needed to hear, but a part of me still felt cautious. The wounds were still fresh, and I had to guard my heart. I needed to ensure that I wasn't just holding on to the remnants of our past out of fear of being alone. As the months rolled on, we both made a concerted effort to create new memories. We explored new hobbies together, like hiking on weekends and taking cooking classes. On our anniversary, instead of the usual gifts, we wrote letters to each other expressing our hopes and fears for our future. It was cathartic, and it helped us to understand what we truly wanted. Yet there were still moments when I found myself questioning her commitment. I would see her chatting with colleagues at work, and the pit in my stomach would churn with doubt. I knew I had to address these feelings instead of letting them fester. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I brought it up. "Lisa, can we talk?" I asked hesitantly, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course," she replied, looking concerned. "I just want to be honest about how I've been feeling lately. I know I'm supposed to trust you, but sometimes I struggle with that," I admitted. She reached for my hand, squeezing it. "I understand. I can't blame you. I'll do whatever it takes to ease your worries. Just tell me what you need." "I think we need to set some boundaries to help rebuild that trust. Maybe even talk about how to handle interactions with others, especially at work," I suggested. Lisa nodded thoughtfully. "I agree. I want you to feel secure. I won't put you in uncomfortable situations. I'll even cut back on socializing with the guys from work if it makes you feel better." The conversation felt like a breakthrough. We were learning to communicate openly, and it felt empowering. I realized that our path to healing would require both of us to be honest about our fears and insecurities. As we continued to work through our issues together, I noticed a shift in my feelings. The anger that had once consumed me was slowly replaced by a sense of understanding. I began to see Lisa not just as my wife, but as a partner who had made a colossal mistake, just like I had made mistakes in our marriage. It was a bittersweet realization. Misguided actions had led us here, but they also carved a new path forward. One evening, while sitting on the porch watching the sunset, I turned to Lisa. "You know, I think we're going to be okay," I said softly. Her eyes lit up and she smiled. "Really? You mean that?" "I do," I replied, my heart swelling with hope. "It's not going to be easy, but I believe we're stronger. Together, we're learning and growing." "I'm so proud of us," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I know we've been through hell, but I truly believe we can come out on the other side." In that moment, I realized that while the scars of betrayal would always be a part of our story, they didn't have to define us. It was the choices we made moving forward that would shape our future. As we sat together, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Life was unpredictable, and although we had faced darkness, there was still light ahead. We had the power to build our future, brick by brick, with honesty and love. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were on the right track.